Yo, good day, guys, and welcome to another episode of Father's Fire. My name's Jody Cedric, and every week we get together to explore the joys, the challenges, the triumphs, the sorrows, and yes, the fun of being a dad. And I'm a little late. If you haven't noticed, a little late in getting this week's podcast out. Man, last week was jam packed full of traveling and I didn't get back till late Sunday night. I had planned on recording live last night on Monday night, and man, I just was zapped. so I'm a little late, but man, I had a fantastic week last week. Went down to Orlando, Florida for the Mobile Tech Expo. Went early to visit one of our customers and also participated in the first ever um, Mobile Tech Expo, keeping it real fishing derby, which I've never been in a fishing derby. So I'm going to talk about that a little bit later. But yeah, super fantastic week. But I've been thinking about something that happened that has really that has precipitated a lot of thought in my mind about what and how we teach our girls. Um, this past weekend, I had the opportunity as part of the conference to be in not only a full day of business and conference events, which are phenomenal. Being able to catch up with people, meet new people was amazing. But at the end of the day, I was part of a founders club meeting, and where we were sitting in a circle and we were talking about the things that we wanted to accomplish this year. And I had gotten a phone message that I needed to step away and um, pick up this call. Steve Thompson was running an errand for me, and I needed to clarify some things for him to help me. And when I came back, rather than go and sit back in my seat, I just stood up kind of near the back, but still close enough to be part of the conversation. And while I was sitting there, a beautiful young lady who I have mad respect for came in, and she kind of snuck around the back over to me, and she handed me a full pizza. And she goes, "Hey, can you give this to this person?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I can do that." And then she kind of sneaked out of the room, real polite, very conscientious that we are in the middle of a room, in the middle of a conversation. And as she walked away, I got to thinking, how would that have been handled differently if it was a man coming in with a pizza versus a woman coming in with the pizza? I know there are a lot of men that if they were entrusted to go get a pizza and bring it to their boss, that they would have just come in, they would have walked right up to the table and put it right in front of him. Whereas she was very deferential, she was very timid, she was very pulled back. She didn't want to interrupt, she didn't want to be seen, she didn't want to interrupt. And it got me to thinking about what is the difference between how a man would have brought in that pizza and a woman. And it comes down to empowering that person, that individual, to make them feel their entire life that they should and can be seen, that they can come into a room when they have a task and they should feel comfortable to be in that place and be able to interrupt or at least be present in a way that makes them not feel like they're diminished, like they're little, that they're belittled, that they don't belong. And I think one of the things that we as fathers need to do is we need to teach our daughters especially that they belong, that they deserve to be seen, that they have a voice, that when you're in a room, that every single person in that room, including the women, need to be able to have an opportunity to say their opinion, to share their experience, to give their insight. In fact, I was in a different room, and one of the comments was brought up where, the a lot of people view this group is kind of racist. And one of the guys legitimately asked the question, where is that coming from? And after listening to um, the different responses, and his direct question never really got answered, and I raised my hand. I said, you know what? I love that question because I think a lot of times we want to brush that under the rug. And I think if we look around the room and we look at the faces in here, that the perception on the outside looking in can be perceived as it's an old boys club, and only those people in that old boys club belong, right? So how do we create an environment where everybody feels welcome, they feel appreciated, they feel heard? And that especially needs to happen with our women, and with our wives, with our daughters. Are we taking the time to not only listen to them, but make sure that they feel like they should be heard, and that their voice has merit, and that their insight has merit? Because when we start to lay the groundwork for this kind of conversation, all of a sudden we get perspectives that expand our mind into new ways of thinking and perception. So, number one, I think we as men need to do a better job of teaching our daughters that they have a voice, and that they have the right to be seen, and that they should be seen. Number two, I've been thinking about this one for about a month now. This one has really been itching at me. About a month ago, I saw a post by a very beautiful young lady that had posted how she had been out with her girlfriends out at an event. She's at a dinner, and she happened to bump into somebody that had assaulted her when she was younger. And that rush of feeling violated, that rush of feeling like an object, like feeling like she was only there for that person's satisfaction, and was totally taken advantage of. And she commented about how yucky she felt, and how it brought back a just a flood of memories. And I really appreciated, one, the bravery that it took for her to share how she was feeling, because I think a lot of times, one, we want to again dismiss what happened in the past and go, you know what, it was, it was just a one-time thing. And what was interesting is, in the middle of this conversation that was posted on Facebook, I got sent a private message. And this person sent me a message that basically said, well, you know what? If she would take a look in the mirror, that and look at herself and be authentic with how she brought the situation to herself, maybe she wouldn't feel like such a victim, because she's playing the victim card. And I'm like, what? And he sent me a link to this Facebook page. And this Facebook page was full of this lady's modeling pictures, both bikini and dinner, classy dinner modeling photos and stuff. And I mean, she's a fantastic model. And it made me think about how many times we push the blame on women when it's us men who are being the pigs. I mean, how many times do the women get all dolled up? They feel super sexy, and they go out on the town, and then they are judged by what they are wearing as being too seductive, too revealing, and that, hey, you know what? You're drawing unwanted attention, so it's your fault. Instead of recognizing that, you know what, we men need to control our own passions, our own appetites, and we need to be respectful. And even, when I was raising my daughters, I tried to teach them that it's like, look, I want you to have the confidence to walk out in the world and feel beautiful and sexy and strong and powerful and intellectual, not as just some kind of object for a man to be desired. But I did teach them that, you know what, as much as I hate to admit, sometimes we men are pigs. And you need to be mindful that the way that you dress is going to draw some kind of attention from different men based on who they are. So don't let the reflection of them make you feel ugly and feel like a piece of meat, an object of their desire instead of being valued for who you are as a person. And I think that we need to do a better job of teaching our boys that, hey, you know what? Yes, that is a beautiful woman. And yes, man, she looks dang good. But you, as a young man, you need to be respectful. You need to be a gentleman. You need to not only honor her by the way that you treat her, but you also need to honor her by the way you allow your friends to speak about her. Because sometimes you get into those circles and you start talking, you're laughing, you're making jokes, and at the core, you're undermining the value and the beauty and the power and the strength and the character of that young woman by the way that we talk about them. So, young men, my young boys, I'm like, you need to be the protector of their character. And I think we need to do a better job of teaching both our young daughters that they are strong, intellectual, powerful, and beautiful. And we need to teach our boys to be strong, powerful, and considerate, kind, gentle, that they need to embody the word gentleman, right? How many times I hate it when I'm driving down the road and I see a gentleman's club. It's like you've taken that word and you've bastardized it. You've turned what should be something that is chivalrous and great and powerful, that is guarding and being a safeguard of women, and you're turning that name of gentleman into this leering, salacious characteristic of men who can't control themselves. They have to go to a place to satisfy their fantasy instead of being men who encourage women to be seen as their partner, as somebody that needs to be admired, a woman that brings something to the table more than just what they physically bring to the table. The third thing that I wanted to talk about is, and I'm so grateful for the opportunity that I had to go to Mobile Tech Expo, to go a day early. As I mentioned, I went to the Keeping It Real Fishing Derby. First time Jody's ever been to a fishing derby. And in fact, I'm wearing the 3D shirt that we got given, and because I was on the 3D team. And one, I'm not a big fisherman, but it was so fun. There was 100 plus men and women that came out. And the thing that really impressed me was my good friend, Daniel Gill, brought his daughter. I think she's about 11, 12 years old, brought her to the, not only the Mobile Tech Expo, but also brought her to this fishing derby. And to me, I'm watching them interact. I watched some of the photos of them catching some really big bass. I mean, they made my bass look small, and I caught a 3.5 pounder. I think they caught a 5.5 or 6 pounder. I mean, they were big fish, but they both got it. And there's this great picture of them side by side, proudly holding up their fish. And the thing that I appreciated about what Daniel did was he included his daughter, right? He treated her as somebody that he wanted to be with, that he wanted her to accompany him on this fishing trip. And she was so excited. But to me, what was even more important was to see Daniel's excitement to have his daughter with him. I love being with every one of my kids, and I've tried to, looking backwards, I think I did a pretty good job. I tried to teach both my daughters and my boys that if they had something that they wanted to pursue, that if they wanted to do it, I was all in and I was willing to support them. And whether w- they wanted to be in competitive sports or be in music or whatever. I'm like, whatever your dream is, I'm there for you. I even wrestled with my daughters the way I did with my boys. I mean, I used to take my kids when they're young. It's kind of funny. And they used to love this. They would come up and I would pick them up by the shoulders and the leg and I would throw them on the back of the couch. They would hit the back wall of the couch, bounce, hit the seats of the couch, and then roll into my arms, and they love that. I did that with my boys and my girls. And that was one of the things that I saw with Daniel is he was treating his daughter just like he would one of his sons. And he's got all girls, right? So he's like, you know what? I'm going to be present. And that was the other thing that I thought is really important that we as fathers need to do. We need to make time for our daughters. We need to make time for our boys, and we need to include them in the things that we do, right? So not only was Daniel bringing her to the fishing derby, but he was also bringing her to the Mobile Tech Expo, which is a cornerstone or one of the key events in an automotive recon professional's life. And he's including his daughter at a very young age. And I know in the case of Daniel in particular, he's involved his daughter, his wife, and all of his daughters in the building of his business. So I think it's important that one, we include our daughters, but two, we make them feel like they are important to us, that they belong to us, that they are precious, that we want to spend time with them, that we treat them as our equal. I tried to treat my daughters, just like my boys, rough and tumble. If you got a vision, let's go get it. If you want to work out, let's go work out. And it's fun. In fact, one of the things that I noticed, um, and this happened a couple years ago, as you guys know, Judy and I work out together all the time. That is one of our daily routines. It's not only a time for us to be together, but it's a place for us to, really focus on our mind, our physical body, our emotional well being. Often we're talking about our kids or talking about things that we want to do, and we have that time together. And it was funny because one of the things that I've noticed is that your kids emulate the things that they see you do. So one day I came home and I put my backpack in the corner. I put away my lunch from the day and I'm starting to shuffle around to get ready for dinner. And I hear the kids downstairs and it sounds like they're huffing and puffing. And so I start walking down the stairs and there's four of my kids working out together. I mean, it was amazing. They were encouraging each other, they were pushing each other forward and making sure that they were doing the exercises right. And they get done, they get their water, and they were just working out together and motivating and pushing each other. And it made me realize that one of the reasons why they were doing that was that they had seen a pattern of mom and dad doing it. And so now they all are very fit, they're all very active. And so the things that you do, your kids will emulate. And sometimes that's a good thing, sometimes that's a bad thing because how many times, especially if you have younger kids and your young son or your young daughter says something and you're like, "Wow, that sounded just like me and I didn't want them to learn that." But other times you hear things that they did pick up on that you're proud of, and you're like, "Oh wow, man, I'm a little bit of good of me is getting into them, even though half the time I feel like I'm struggling and I'm not quite figuring it out." But anyway, that's what I wanted to talk to you about this week. I've just really been thinking about it. Number one, we need to teach our daughters that they have a voice, that they deserve to be seen, that they deserve a place at the table. both in business and in our personal circles, in our families. If we empower them to share what's in their mind, to come into a room and not feel like they don't belong, that they're interrupting, just like a guy would come in and just go, "Oh, sorry, excuse me," drop off a pizza and leave. We need to empower our girls to do the same thing. We also need to teach our daughters that it's okay to be strong and beautiful and sexy. And just because you're a pig doesn't mean that they should feel less of themselves. And we need to teach them that that they have the power to say, no, you know what, I don't like that, and it's okay for you to step over there, and it's okay for me to step over here. And I think a lot of times our girls feel guilty because they go, you know what, I'm not okay with this, so I'm stepping away. And they should feel empowered to step away, and they shouldn't feel diminished because of our appetites as men and not being respectful for them. And for number three, making sure that they feel like they belong, that we as dads are present in their life, that we're including them just like we would our boys. So anyway, that's my thoughts today. So hopefully it sparks something in your mind, and most importantly in your heart, to inspire you to be the father, the daddy that these young daughters need, and also to be the father and dad that our boys need. So thank you guys so much for tapping in. My second book is really close. It's out for production. So as soon as it's ready, I will let you know when you can go out. It'll be available on Amazon, Barnes and Noble. I'm going to explore another outlet called Smashword. So just going to try to make it available in as many places as possible. So thank you guys so much for tapping in. And we will check you guys same time, same bad channel, just next week, right here on Father's Fire. See ya.